value science is the science of axiology. It was really developed in the 20th century, the mid-20th century, by two guys. One of you, most of you heard of. His name is Abraham Maslow. People familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of triangle? We heard it all in psychology. It's good stuff, and it has a lot. It rings true. Well, that was his values hierarchy, that you move up in that triangle to self-actualization at the peak. Well, his colleague at Yale, both of them taught together as professors, was a guy who had a PhD in psychology, a PhD in physics, and a PhD in mathematics. And he was known as a philosopher. His name was Robert S. Hartman. And he's one of my heroes from the past. And he did pass away in 1973, right after he found out that he was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. And he was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for what I'm about to share with you, and the volumes of 12 books and lectures that he gave, and the science that he created. And he figured out a way for every individual in this room, if you take an assessment, to measure your core values infrastructure. Hartman said that the measures of good versus poor in human interaction, in the human mind, and how we relate to others, and how we build trust, has to do with whether this formula applies to your and my life. And this formula basically means that others and self should always be of greater value, of greater importance, than things and tasks. And things and tasks should always be of greater value than systems, ideas, and concepts. And if you look at that grid and you look at some of the terrible isms that we've seen in the last century, Nazism, fascism, communism, and even in some cases capitalism, kind of like what we're talking about here, because capitalism can be an independent and really a neutral force, but when attached to by greed, it can become a very unhealthy force. Behaviors are like buoys. Tide goes up, you go up. Tide goes down, you go down. And that chain there that's attached between the buoy and the anchor in the sea, that's in the seabed, that's not going anywhere, is actually where our attitudes and our will and our emotions play, and our motivations and the things that we desire and we'll work hard for. And so as that becomes stretched and taut, we're under pressure and tension. When the water gets too high, ever been in that situation? I don't behave the same under stress that I do when I'm relaxed on vacation. And probably you don't either. And so we have this behavior that changes. And so most of the work we're trying to do in human resources and in education and development and training has to do with change behavior, put it in the mind, teach them, train them, lead them, whatever. But really what's going on is what's underneath the surface. I'm going to ask you today to put a mirror in front of yourself and look at your reflection. It's hard to do. Most of us spent some time in the mirror this morning. By the look of a few of you, maybe not as much time as you should have. Some of us need to spend more time. But we spend time in front of the mirror. We're looking at the external. We're looking at the behavior. But how much time do you spend? How much time do I spend really looking deep at the chain and at that anchor and seeing how that may be where the adjustments need to be made? Because that's the hard work of personal growth and personal change. And it's the hard work of changing an organization, too. Cows have it pretty good. They chew their food, they swallow it, they pop it up again, and they chew it again, and they swallow it, goes to a